Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Rachel Klein and I will be your presenter here for the next 20 minutes. Today we are going to be discussing some different type of special situations that you might get into within the donations module. So the information I'm going to be covering is from one of our workbooks, specifically our Donations 104 workbook, and it's pages 2 through 9. So if you have that workbook and want to follow along, feel free to do so. Per usual, I am recording this, so I will get it cleaned up and put up on our website by the end of the day today, so you can rewatch this or share this topic with someone else that you think might find this information beneficial. I do want to show you as well on our website where you can purchase this workbook. So all of our workbooks are available to buy at churchwindows.com. If you head out to our website, go under Beginning, and then come down here to Training Workbooks. You'll be able to see all the different workbooks that we have available for purchase. Let me try that again. Training Workbooks. Here we go. So to purchase a PDF version that you can download and print, it is $12. And then if you actually want us to print it for you and mail it to you in a pre-printed binder ready format, we can do that for $22. But on this page, as you scroll through, you can see all the different books we have available along with the table of contents typed up for you so you can see what is included. And like I said, today we're looking at Donations 104 and then the special donations situations. There's about 5 different situations I'm going to go into in depth today to cover for you. Again, Kellyanne is in here with me like normal. She's happy to answer any questions that you might have. Everyone is going to stay muted for the webinar, but you may type in any questions you might have in that question section of your GoToWebinar toolbar. Just expand that, type that in, and Kellyanne will get you an answer. If you've been to my webinars before, you know that I don't even look at the questions until after I'm done presenting. I find I get myself mixed up if I'm reading a question while trying to talk at the same time. So I don't even look at them till the end. So you can wait till the end to ask your question, or you feel free to type it in while I'm presenting, and Kellyanne will type you a response to that question as well. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and get started here. Let me minimize this. There we go. All right, so as you can see, we're in version 22.19.3. That is the most current version of Church Windows. If you have a little bit of an older version, you can head out to our website and get an update downloaded. Or if you're on a version prior to 22, go ahead and give us a call or shoot us an email to support@churchwindows.com, and we can help get you up to date that way. All right, I'm going to go ahead and open up donations. All right, so on page 2, it talks about transferring donations between individuals. This is really handy if you have giving that's on one person that you need to then move to someone else. So to get to the transfer donation screen, you're going to go up here under Givers, and then you're going to hit Transfer Donations. A couple things I want to point out on this screen. When it first opens, the date range is going to be focused on the current time frame, so the current year that we are currently in. If you want to go back and change it to previous years, you can definitely do so here at the top in the date range boxes. You can adjust this back as far as you wish and then just hit the Apply Dates button, and then it's going to look back within those years that you've specified in your date range to move any giving. Okay. Over here on the left, this is your From giver. This is who you're wanting to take the donations away from. And then over here on the right is your To giver. This is who you're going to be moving that giving to, or who you want to move those donations on. Okay. You also have a little inactive checkbox here on both screens. If you have someone that you have made inactive, meaning they've left the church, they've moved away, they've passed away, if you have marked them as inactive, whether you did that on their record in people and membership, or you did that on their record in donations and manage givers. If you have someone who's been marked inactive and you need to find them to move giving, have to make sure you check these boxes because those inactive people by default are going to be left off. Okay. So let's talk about the example in the book. On page 3. The example is that there were donations that were added to someone named Jake, and it needs to be put on the son, okay, whose name is Nate Knox. So this is a great way you can quickly move gifts from dad down to the son because they were put on the dad in error, okay? So on the left, the from giver, this is going to be Jake. This is the dad. This is who we want to take the giving away from. I'm going to go ahead and just type in Jake to get Jake Knox. And as soon as you select that giver, you're then going to see the donations that person has made within that date range. If you ever go to type someone in and the program doesn't find them or they aren't available in the Dropbox to select, that means that person doesn't have any giving to move within the date range you have selected. Okay? And then the to giver, this is Jake's son, who is Nate. So we're going to type Nate in here. And here's Nate Knox. Now here's the giving that's currently on Nate. All right, so by default, all 3 of these transactions are going to be selected. That's telling us that the program is going to reverse all 3 of these gifts and re-enter them onto Nate. So if you want to move everything, keep everything selected. You don't need to change anything here. But if you only have 1 or 2 gifts you want to move, you can uncheck the ones that you are wanting to leave on the from giver. Okay. For this example, I want to move everything. So I'm not going to change anything that's selected, and I'm going to hit the transfer selected button. The program is going to tell me it's going to reverse 3 donations and repost them to Nate. Are you sure? At this point, you can say no if you need to change your mind, but if you're sure, say yes. And it's then going to give me your new transaction numbers that were created. Say okay, and now you can see everything is now over there on the right on Nate. So this is a really straightforward, streamlined way to quickly move multiple transactions off of one person onto someone else. All right, let's close out of here. Now the next example is if you have a duplicate. So a lot of times this happens. It's a common error that people come across. The same person gets entered more than once into church windows. So let's talk about how to clean up the giving for those duplicates. I'm going to go back into transfer donations. I'm going to leave my date range for 2020. Now, if you're cleaning up a duplicate, you might need to go back a couple years. That is fine. You would adjust your date range here at the top. But let's talk about Bill Bell. He's our example. Let's say that there are 2 versions of Bill Bell. So I'm going to go ahead and just type in Bell here. And we can see here, here's Bill Bell. He's the donations giver. This is the one that I want to take the giving off of, and I want to put it on to Bill Bell from membership. So Bill Bell, this is my good one. This is my one with number 64. Now, again, we could do an entire webinar on cleaning up duplicates, which we have. It's out on the website if you want to watch. But the biggest thing with handling duplicates is figuring out which one is the good one and the one that you want to keep, okay? And in that case, this is our to giver, Bill Bell with number 64. I want to remove these donations off of Bill Bell with the D, my donations giver, and put it onto my good version of Bill, okay? Now, what I specifically want to show you in here is this checkbox in the middle. This says these 2 givers are the same person. They're duplicates. So I want to check this box. And what this is going to do is it's actually going to completely remove this giving off of my duplicate and re-enter it to my good giver, my Bill Bell, my to giver. Okay, now what sets this apart from when we did it before without checking this box When we did it before, when we were moving giving from the dad to the son, we didn't check this duplicate givers box, and the program created reversing transactions on the dad when we moved the giving. So we have a very clear audit trail that giving was transferred from one person to another. Okay. Now, the difference by checking this box here, telling the program that we're cleaning up a duplicate, it completely removes the transactions off of Bill Bell, the duplicate giver, and moving it to the good version of Bill. By completely removing the transactions and not having any reversals on our from giver, it's going to allow us then to delete the duplicate version. Okay, so that is the biggest difference from checking this box. Anytime you're cleaning up a duplicate, make sure you check this box. That completely removes the transactions off of the duplicate person, allowing you to go in and delete them. Okay, I hope that's clear. If not, pop a question in there and we'll do our best to get you an answer. But now that I'm telling the program I am in fact cleaning up a duplicate, I'm going to hit transfer. And it's going to say, are you sure Bill Bell, donations giver, and Bill Bell are the same person and that you want to transfer the selected giving? I'm going to say yes. And now it says the giver was changed. And now my giving is over here on the right. Okay. And then at this point, I could go back and delete my donations giver of Bill Bell completely from the software. Okay. All right. Now we're talking about how to make a giver inactive. Depending on how the giver was entered will depend on how you make them inactive in the software. If you have a donations giver, like that version of Bill Bell we were just talking about, you can make that person inactive in Manage Givers. Again, you can delete him if you wish because we deleted the giving off him. But just looking at anyone who has a D, so anybody with this donations giver checkbox, if you want to make those people inactive, you would do that here by simply checking this inactive checkbox in Manage Givers. If you have someone from membership, so someone with a V, here like Karen, or someone without a letter after their name, those people are actually from membership, and those people need to be made inactive over there. Okay, so that takes us to our next example. Let's jump over into membership. And let's talk about how to make someone inactive over there. So I'm going to go into people. And I want to look at Ruth Miller. She's the example in the book. So I'm going to go up here, person lookup. I'm going to find Miss Ruth, and I'm going to go to her record. So because she is from membership, I have to make her inactive here in people. So I'm going to come over here to the right. I'm going to look for my inactive checkbox, and I'm going to check that box. And then I have to tell the software, why am I making her inactive? Why is she leaving the church? So that's what we call inactive reason. Here in the Dropbox, you would pick. So I'm going to say that she withdrew. Okay? For whatever reason, she's withdrawn. I'm going to put that reason in, and then I'm going to specify a date. The program's always going to default to today's date for my inactive date. I'll leave that as is. And if there's anything else you need to change within the family, you can also do that here as well. And I'm just going to say okay. And that's how you would make someone inactive over in membership. All right. Now let's say, even though Ruth has withdrawn from our church, she still wants to make a donation. You can definitely still put in a donation for someone that's left the church without having to go back in and make them active again, if you will. So to show you that, I'm going to go into Enter Donations. Right here in my donations date box, you're going to select the date the donation came in. We're just going to do today's date for example's sake. And now if we go down to the giver box and I type in Ruth, I'm not going to see Ruth Miller because she's inactive. And by default, those people are left off. Now, easy enough, I can come up here, right above my giver search box, check that inactive box. And now if I type in Ruth, Here's my Ruth Miller. She's showing up in red, telling me that she is in fact inactive, but the program is still going to allow me to select her and enter a gift from her, even though she is inactive in the software. Okay, so this is a really good example of if somebody moves away, leaves the church, but they still send a donation in. You don't have to go back and make them active again, put the gift in and make them inactive. You just simply check that box and enter the donation and it will credit their account. Okay. Pretty easy process there. All right, so the next special donation situation comes on page 5. This talks about a gift from an estate. So the way we recommend setting that up is actually adding a new giver. So if you have someone in your church that's passed away and then you receive a donation from that person's estate, this is how, or the cleanest way, we recommend entering that gift. We recommend creating the estate as a new giver within donations. All right, so I'm going to walk you through that. I'm on page 5 here. Up at the top, you're going to go to Givers. Then you're going to go to Add Individual. And then you're going to go to Add Donations Individual Giver right here. Donations givers only show up in the Donations module. You're not required to put in a giver number. You can skip right over that. And now I'm going to come down to the first name box. I'm actually going to put in the first name of the estate. So I'm going to actually call this Estate of Bob. And then the last name, I'm going to put Bob's last name. Okay, so your first name is actually going to say Estate of. Okay. Down here in the address box, this is where you put in the address information for the person handling the estate. So if you know what that person's address is, you would hit the plus sign and you would enter that information right here. I'm just going to put Church Windows address in and then get your zip code, city, state, all that stuff filled in and hit OK. I'm going to hit Add Giver and then Save. Now, when you go back to the Enter Donation screen, I'm just going to use today's date again. When you get down here under Giver, I'm just going to start typing the word estate, and now here's my estate of Bob Smith, pops right up, and then I can continue entering the donations as I would normally. And just the same, you're able to get a donation statement out for your estate of Bob Smith giver. All right, I know we're cruising through this, but I want to move to the next options here in special donation situations. It's talking about changing a giver number. So there's two places or two ways, if you will, in donations that you can change a number. And I actually just had a call about this before the webinar. She's asking, where's the best place to change the number? So where you change the number really depends on what information you are needing history of. Okay, so you can change a giver number here in Manage Givers, or you can come up here to the top and go to Givers, Manage Numbers. Change your number there. Let me show you an example of both and what the difference is, and then you can decide, depending on your situation, what you need to do. Let's start in Manage Givers here. So in Manage Givers, if we come over here to the right, you can see there on this giver number tab, or it might say envelope number, it's going to say current giver number, and that's going to list the date of when that number is in effect. So for Nina, she has number 34. 34 started back on the January 1st, 2011, and she currently has no end date. If I change Nina's number right here, it is going to change her to the new number starting back 1/1/2011. All right, let me show you what I mean. I'm going to click in here, and I'm going to change 34 to 999. Just going to click off of that, jump back up here. Whoops, hit the wrong button. Back on Nina, you can see now Nina has number 999 starting back 2011. Okay, so if you want that number to change for Nina, for all of the history she had the number, all the way back to 2011, you can change this number right here, okay? So now the program has no history of her having number 34. It only shows a history of her having 999, okay? At least starting back here from 2011, all right? Now, if you want to keep a history of what numbers she's had in the past, then we're going to have to go about this process a little differently. Then we're going to change the number and manage numbers, okay? I'm going to show you that next. Keep in mind, giving is always attached to the person's name. So you can go in, you can change someone's number every day of the week if you want to, and it is not going to affect their donation transactions, okay? Keep that in mind. The giving is always, always attached to the name. All right, let me close out of here, and we're going to go into manage numbers. I'm going to show you how the process is a little bit different here in manage numbers. Manage numbers gives you the ability to set start and end dates of when numbers are in effect. So essentially, you can keep a history of who had what number in what year. Okay, so a lot of churches go in and change numbers every year. If that's what you want to do, that's completely up to you, knowing that the giving is on the name, not the number. But then you can see a history of who's had what number. So if I go up here to the top right and I check show past, it's going to show me a history of what numbers people have had in the past. Okay, so if that's information you want to keep track of, then using the start date and the end date option and changing the number here is going to be best suited for what you need. So let's talk about Carolyn. Let's change Carolyn's number. So Carolyn has number 5. She's had number 5 since 09/09/2011. Let's say I want Carolyn to have a new number for 2020, but I want to keep the history of how long she's had number 5 for. If that's the case, I'm going to click in this box. I'm going to give her an end date, 12/31/2019. All right. Now, as soon as I click off Carolyn, she's going to disappear from my list because as you can see up here in the top right, it's only showing me people with current giver numbers. And at this second in time, Carolyn doesn't have one because I just stopped it. I'm going to look for Carolyn again. I'm going to hit add new number. I'm going to give her the number that I want her to have for 2020. I'm going to make sure my start date is accurate and I'm going to say okay. Now Carolyn pops back in my list with her new number of 9999. And again, if I check that show past box, I'm then going to see another line for Carolyn showing me the history of how long she had number 5 for and any other numbers she's had in the past for that matter. Okay, so that is the biggest difference for where you change numbers. Again, if we look back up at Nina, she doesn't have a history of that 34 because I changed it in Manage Givers and it completely changed her from 34 to 999, excuse me. Okay, that's the biggest difference. And then again, if you want to take a number off somebody completely and put it on someone else, you can do that here as well. This is going to be the best place to do that. So let's say, get back to showing current. We're going to work with Jeff here, number 6. Let's say Jeff has left the church. I'm going to make him inactive over in Manage Givers because he's a donations giver. And then I'm going to remove number 6. I'm going to give it to somebody else. So what I'm going to do on Jeff's line, I'm going to type in an end date of whenever I want that number to stop. It's up to you. And then once I get that end date in there, I'll just click off of Jeff. Now he's out of my list because it's after 12/31/2019 when he had his end date. And now I'm going to come up to my giver box and I'm going to look for who I want to have number 6 now. So I'm looking for Andrea Brown. I'm going to select her and I'm going to again hit add new giver number. I'm going to type in number 6. I'm going to make sure my start date is what I want it to be, and I'm going to say OK. So now when I look on the list down here, we have Miss Andrea Brown with number 6 starting the first of the year. All right. Biggest things with giver numbers is the start date and the end date. The program is not going to let you assign a number if someone currently has that number. So you need to make sure you have your start and end dates one day apart. So you can end the number on 12/31/2019, then that number is available to reassign 1/1/2020.